Hello, KansasFest.
Greetings.
Greetings. So I'm Charles, if you haven't met me already. I'm the guy that has the Retroconnector stuff and little miniature Apple computers, and I'm also selling books for David Finnegan, so if you're interested in the new Apple II User's Guide, that is my plug for it for the day. And so I'm going to be talking a little bit about, everybody hear me okay? Okay, good. A little bit about stuff that I've done since last KansasFest, things you can buy at the vendor fair, but also some stuff to tinker with at the Solder Fest that's going to be happening probably in here as soon as I'm done. People are going to be setting up soldering stations. I've got a couple already. I'm going to have a station and I have some stuff to put together, stuff for you to buy if you want to put together as a kit. And I promise there's very little or no soldering involved in that one, even though it's for the Solder Fest. So, without further ado, backpack. Yeah, everybody knows the backpack. So that is this guy here. This is the 2C backpack. It's a battery pack for the Apple IIc. Gives you, with the addition of a cable, which Chris Torrance kindly sold me. And he may have some more. I don't know if you've got some more to sell.
One more.
He has one more. It will give you a completely portable Apple IIc, and with the small display like the Night Owl or some of the other portable displays, you can basically have your portable 2C at the coffee shop and be the envy of all the nerds. And tonight I have 3 kits to sell. This is what it looks like. It actually fits underneath the handle when it's set up like this. I've got 3 kits to sell for people to put together, and I've got wood glue, and there should be some paper towels and stuff to put the case itself together. That's laser cut MDF. Batteries and chargers, everything else just screws together. There's one piece of soldering, and I can do that for you if you're afraid of soldering. It has a slim lead acid battery in it, so it's not a lithium ion, so you don't have to worry about flying with it, except that it's a giant battery, and they might look at you funny. And I went with the lead acid mainly because it's easy to charge. All you have to do is basically give it 14 volts, and when it's done, the little light on the charger turns from green to amber, and it knows that it's done, and so it doesn't overcharge it. With lithium ion, you got to have a circuit board, you got to have smart charging and all that kind of stuff, and that's just more complicated than I thought anybody really wanted to do for a DIY kit. And if you do want to do something with lithium ion or your own kind of rechargeable battery or modify this design I'm going to put on Pinoco. It's a laser cutting. They do 3D printing. They do a bunch of other stuff for whatever your design is, and you should be able to buy that, and they'll ship it to you, and it'll look. Let me go off camera here for just a second. Props. It'll look like this when it comes to you, and then you can basically put it together, and when you're done, it'll look like that, and it'll go underneath the 2C with a couple of screws and little elbow grease. So this is an example of something new this year from the 3D printed side of things. This is the 2GS display that matches the 2GS case, and that's a Raspberry Pi inside there. So for scale, that's a houseplant. But this is a the little 3-inch screen. Raspberry Pi goes inside the 2GS. I've also started doing decals. If anybody's interested, those are you can either get it with or without the rainbow apple. And then as far as electronic stuff goes, this is my product matrix. And I know it's very confusing, but the main thing is you can connect any of the rows with any of the columns wherever you see a green dot. Blue is stuff that I've either made a proof of concept of or I'm working on. The green ones are where I've got an adapter that you can buy and adapt, say, joystick to a 9-pin, 16-pin joystick to a 9-pin game port. So you don't have to open up the case each time to put the 16-pin in. You get an adapter. But new for this year is this little square, which is connecting up a USB mouse to the mouse card or the 2C mouse port. And that's what I've got right here. And just as a demo, it's not plugged in, running off the battery. I'll get the Jason Scott spokesmodel up here in a little bit. Number one, there we go. So if you want to come up and fiddle around with it, the software that's on this little board here, thank you, Jason, is beta right now. So if somebody is an Arduino hacker and wants to mess around with it, I can loan you my chip burner. Thank you, sir. I can loan you the chip burner. This is basically an Arduino on a board with a USB adapter and then the 9-pin port for the mouse. And I would love for somebody to help me with the software, otherwise I'm not going to get to my HackFest entry. But it'll work with the 2C, the 2E with a mouse card, presumably a 2 or 2 Plus with the mouse card if the mouse card works in those, and early Macintoshes that don't have the ADB. So any 9-pin mouse port. And it's adjustable, the tracking speed is adjustable with the right mouse button because otherwise it's not doing anything. Left mouse button obviously clicks. And it'll cycle through different tracking speeds because different generations of the mice and different generations of the machines kind of expected slightly different timing on the quadrature waveform. So it kind of cycles through those when you click on the right mouse button. It's beta, so you're welcome to purchase that, and what I might do is send you an updated chip some point in the future, or like I said, hopefully at the end of this week there'll be new ones and I can just burn new chips for everybody. The code for that, if you want to work on it for the Mini-HackFest, which is what I'll be introducing in just a moment, is on my GitHub. And I presume everybody that's in here knows what GitHub is, otherwise you'd be in the other room at the Git how to use it and what it is session. The general purpose game port IO, or GP2 IO, is something that I introduced last year at this time, probably at this very same session, because it was one of those things that I wanted people to hack on. It's a production board now instead of hand-wired proto boards. And here's a quick overview of how it works. It uses the 16-pin game port that's on the 2 Plus, 2E, and presumably the GS, but it requires some timing stuff. It'll have to be running in the slower mode. And it uses two of the enunciator ports to talk from the Apple to the GP2 IO board, which is running basically, again, Arduino. It's a microcontroller that is talking to it as if it were a serial port, essentially. It has two of the enunciators, one for data and one for sort of ready to send, clear to send kind of signal. And the Arduino core can then talk back to the Apple on one of the push button lines, so as if it were jamming on the joystick button really fast. And then the Apple II uses the other enunciator line for a clear to send signal. So that's what it does. And consider it like a really slow serial port that runs on the game port and talks to an Arduino. And what can you do with that? Basically, you can do anything that an Arduino can do. You can talk to pretty much any peripheral. You just have to have it wired up. It talks right now over I2C. It'll do UART serial. So if you have any little board or display or thing that talks generally at a slow speed, you can do that with the GP2 IO because it's talking to Arduino, and then there's the library of all the Arduino stuff. You can blink some lights. You can do data acquisition from a sensor. You can do indicator lights. That's just a couple of ideas. You can have your machine running a clock and then have the LEDs on the GP2 IO tell you things at particular times, what have you. because it'll also talk to a little Wi-Fi board that I'm going to talk about in a second, you can even go and grab data off the internet if you really wanted to. That'll take a little bit more coding on your part, but that's the idea. But mainly blinky lights. Everybody likes blinky lights, but also Wi-Fi. So anything you can get data out of the Apple II or into the Apple II, you can do stuff with it. That's the general purpose.
So could you use it as a serial port for like ADT Pro or something like that?
You'd have to write the ADT Pro side of it.
It doesn't just expose, like,
it doesn't just
the Arduino doesn't have a USB port on it.
The Arduino does. Essentially, it becomes a USB serial device on that end. And then if you had the client side on the Apple II side, you could then get the data in as if it were a serial port, but you'd have to write that client on the Apple II side. So I've got some example stuff here. This is the code for all the assembly language side of things for getting data in and out, reading bytes, writing bytes, and then a couple of demos for how to blink lights, how to do an RGB LED, that kind of stuff. Do I have a question?
Yes. So when you were saying that it's a slow serial port, what type of, or rather, what speed of transfer are we talking about here? How many?
Less than 9600 baud. I'm not entirely sure because it's not something that I've really done like speed tests on.
It's not bad for a solution. I mean, without dedicated hardware, I'd say it's pretty good for software.
Yeah, and it's all being controlled in software, and it's doing a few bytes at a time and not anything sustained really that I've tested. So I can't really tell you that it's going to do a disk image in half an hour. So you're welcome to take a look at it and have a race between it and ADT Pro or whatever you want to do. So again, that's GP2IO. This is all, if you go to github.com/option8, all the stuff is in there. And this is a little board that's come on the scene in the last couple of years. It's called the ESP8266, not actual size. Another option for the Mini-HackFest tinkering is a little adapter board that I've put together that has the ESP on one end and RS-232 serial on the other end. It's just a dumb connection. It's not like the Wi-Fi modem that's out there. If you guys have been reading about that, that actually has software on it to emulate a Hayes modem and do a lot of BBS type stuff. This is just for, you want to talk to this chip talks UART serial, you want to talk to it with RS-232. I've got an adapter plugged in and then power, and you can talk to it. And the code for that is, again, github.com/option8. This is the serial Wi-Fi board. It's running the ESP at 9600 baud because that's the most stable speed that I could get it at over RS-232. And it's running the default no operating system distribution of the ESP software. So there's no custom code on it. You just send it AT commands, and then it does its thing over serial. So you'll need a serial card or a 2C that has it built in. You'll need a serial cable and set it up at 9600 baud. Use something like Modem Manager or what's another terminal program? There's a zillion of them out there, but terminal program that'll talk, and you can send your commands to it that way, or you can just send your data over serial, however you want to code it. So that brings us to the Mini-HackFest, which is this is the second annual, probably last, Retroconnector sponsored Mini-HackFest. Again, code samples, examples of things. At github.com/option8. You are welcome to hack on anything that I made, do a pull request, or just write your own code willy-nilly. The idea for this is essentially do something with hardware and or software. It doesn't have to be Retroconnector related. I have some boards here. I've got some sample stuff. If you want to improve on something or do a cool project with one of my boards, I've got samples for folks to use. If you have an idea for a hardware HackFest entry, but the HackFest generally doesn't do hardware because it's harder to reproduce, you can't share it. I've got some prizes and stuff for the coolest hardware hack. Again, whether it uses Retroconnector stuff or not, hint, hint, I want you to hack on my stuff and make it do cool things. So I don't have everything with me this week, but all the code is online. So if you want to do something with Arduino or based on something that I've got, you're welcome to it. Finish your project, submit it for judging by the end of the day on Friday. And I've got a couple of people that I need to talk to about judging stuff. If they are amenable, it'll be me and at least 2 other people to judge. Depending on the participation, certain number of participants will get the hardware that they used. If you use Retroconnector stuff, you get to keep it if you do a project with it. Especially if you desolder and make a mess out of it, that's yours. But you have to finish the project. You can't just take it apart and then give me back the pieces. And there'd be some prizes for a winner. So judging criteria, is it cool? Does it do something you couldn't do with the Apple II before? Last year's winner made using the GP2IO board, made a keyboard interface to semaphore. So he used the GP2IO and 2 servos. So as he typed, it would do the semaphore code with 2 little flags attached to servos. So I thought that was cool. That was last year's winner. Is it really cool? No. Seriously, how cool is that? I'm angry I didn't think of it myself. And also originality. So welcome to the Mini-HackFest and to the SolderFest, and get hacking. All right, any questions? No questions? Everybody awake?
I think I have one from the internet. How many amp hours did that 14-volt battery have?
Oh, that is a 2.5 amp hour battery. Sorry, that was my my mistake. I did not mention that. Yeah, it's a 2.5 amp hour battery, so it'll run the 2C by itself for at least 2 hours. You'll probably get about an hour, hour and a half, depending on what the draw is on the Night Owl and whether you're using a lot of the disk drive. The disk is obviously, the spinning drive is obviously the biggest draw of power. But yeah, good question. 2.5 amp hours on the battery, and it comes with the kit comes with the battery and the charger. So there's that. Anybody else?
So you said you had samples?
I have samples and examples and stuff to buy if you want to buy it. Thank you.